Welcome to Why We're Fans. I'm Duran, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Gennaro.
In all of our episodes, we cover the past, present, and the future of all your favorite NFL football teams.
We love hearing your stories, talking the NFL draft, and reminiscing about the good old days.
If you like the same, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this episode. And leave a comment below if you want to answer any of our questions.
Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on our latest interviews. And like we always say, win or lose, we're all fans. Enjoy this episode.
And welcome back to another episode of Why We're Fans. As always, it's Gennaro and Duran here, and joining us today. I'm hoping this one's going to be a slobber knocker in honor of his wrestling fandom over there. But we got Alex Al-Kazzaz. Alex, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, fellas. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Thanks for joining us. I know it's Sunday. Unfortunately, it's not a football Sunday, so we got to do something to kill the time until at least the draft gets here and things like that. But as far as me, I'm always excited to talk Dallas Cowboys. I know Dak seems to be recovering well, and I think the future is bright next year, at least brighter than last year. So I'm sure we'll cover all that stuff.
I mean, all we can do is hope.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, man. Looks like, Duran, it looks like you're in Jerry World right now, so it looks like you're enjoying your time.
Got it.
I think that's awesome. But, Alex, go and plug any work that you do have and where people can find you.
Well, I run the Bear of Texas podcast, and there's actually 3 shows. It's 3 segments. There's the Cowboys Talk segment. There's the Soccer Talk segment, which is known as Into the Net FC. There's my video game segment, which is called Rage Quit. And I actually just started a pro wrestling podcast with an independent pro wrestler who's a friend of mine. It's called Wrestling with a Bear. We just released our first episode this week. And there's actually, if you go on the website, there's a blog section where I write weekly articles. And so we're just getting started.
Is that your nickname, The Bear?
Well, I'm known as the Bear, man. And I got that nickname my freshman year of high school when I was on the amateur wrestling team.
There you go. Amateur wrestling team. Are you talking collegiate wrestling?
Well, amateur wrestling is basically, like the Olympic style wrestling, the freestyle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did that too. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I've never heard it called amateur before.
Well, I was a high school kid, so I guess amateur is the best way to put it.
I guess so. In high school.
Yeah.
That's awesome,
All right.
man.
I like the name of your podcast too, Rage Quit. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because video games is a part of my life too, and I figured, if I'm going to take game talk seriously, I might as well put a video game terminology in the name.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool, man.
Gee, what are you drinking on today?
I got Hoppy Little Trees. Shout out to Bob Ross. Always painting them trees out there from Cooperage Brewing Company out here.
I got Vibin' High from Cooperage as well. It's one of my favorites lately, so got to keep it going.
Before we get started, man, I'm looking on your Twitter, and I saw you met good old JR, man. How was that like?
It was one of the best moments of my life because good old JR was actually one of the inspirational guys who made me want to pursue broadcast journalism. He's one of the guys because my main goal is to one day do play-by-play, and he's one of the influences of me wanting to do play-by-play.
That's awesome. I think mine was, the late Scott Stewart for sure. But yeah, I mean, growing up, when I watched wrestling, for sure, it's always nice hearing, all right, we got a slobber knocker here. And just how we get all intense when Steve Austin came out.
Man, yeah. I would have loved to see JR and Joey Styles on the same commentary booth. That would have been intense.
That would have been a good one, man.
JR is a legend. That's for sure. Sure, we all grew up with him.
Amen to that. Shout out. Yep. Amen to that.
Got it. So, Alex, we'll put all your links and everything below so people can go ahead and click through and follow along with all your work. But
appreciate it, guys.
Other than that, I'm ready to dig in. What about you, G?
Yeah, man, let's dig in. So, Alex, or should I call you Bear? I'm not too sure yet. We'll see how this goes.
Either one works, fellas.
All right. So, how did you start, becoming a Dallas Cowboy fan, America's team?
Well, I arrived in the United States in 1997, arrived in Dallas, Fort Worth. It was actually my first night here in this country where I was actually watching American football. My dad took us to a Texas-style sports grill, which is a sports bar as well. And I loved soccer at the time, and I did have a little basic knowledge on rugby. And then when I started watching football, I remember my dad telling me specifically, this is not rugby, this is American football.
Way
And
to
as
go.
I'm watching, I'm like, I'm like, what is this? Like, why is the clock stopping? Why are these guys wearing all this gear? Why is he throwing the ball forward? But it was just something I didn't understand. It took a while to understand, but it certainly caught my attention, and I kind of got hooked from that moment on.
Was your
Yeah.
dad a fan of football previously?
American football.
Yeah, American football.
Not exactly. He did know that it's a big culture, especially in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had traveled to Texas when we were still living in France, which was where I was born, and he did a 2-week business trip one time, and that's where he kind of caught on American football. Saw there's all these different teams, saw all the gear, and it really caught his attention. So he was trying to introduce me to American sports as well, because he knew that soccer wasn't very popular in the United States at the time.
Yeah. Do
So
you
is
remember
rugby
who that
big
first
over there?
game was? Was it the Cowboys game?
It was a Cowboys game, yes.
Perfect.
Rugby's big over there in France too.
Oh yeah, rugby and soccer
Okay.
are just the two main sports. In some parts of France, it's some towns are rugby towns, there's soccer towns. It's kind of like that, and then basketball's third as well. Everybody loves. We all know Tony Parker. All those. The French guys. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I have a lot of my best friends played rugby growing up here, and I dabbled in it a little bit myself. So it's definitely fun. And I'm just curious. So when you were asking those questions about like, man, how come these American dudes are wearing all these pads and everything? Do you think rugby would able to translate well into football?
Absolutely not. Rugby. You got to be tough as hell to handle such a sport. And when I watch these highlights, I can't catch the games live, but when I watch the highlights, I'm just like, dude, I would never survive this. There's no way I could ever survive this. But what I enjoy is that at least the clock doesn't stop, like in soccer, because some commercials obviously are fun to watch because we always remember them. But when the game's intense, there's so much going on. You don't want the commercial, because I feel like sometimes commercials, it kills the buzz, it kills the momentum, it kills the vibe.
There you go. You said it best. It kills the momentum. Like,
Mhm.
especially with all these like nonsense challenges that's going on now. It definitely just like when you're on, like if you're going hurry up offense and they just want to like just throw a flag real quick, they can kill it without causing a timeout or whatnot. So
And I hate that.
I think
yeah.
one thing that the XFL actually had right, they did a lot of things right, but most recently they shortened that the play clock, and I liked how it just made people move a little bit faster, and everyone had a microphone and communication in their helmet, so it really eliminated the need to huddle, and I liked it a lot. I just liked the pace of it speeding up.
yeah, good call. I totally forgot that they most recently did that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that was
NFL. It's a copycat league. The NFL ripped that off, along with like being mic'd up and those camera angles and whatnot. And from what I'm hearing is that they're actually going to have a sky cam now, or are they like trying to get
Sky
that
Judge.
Sky
Sky
Judge?
Judge.
Yeah.
Must be like some sort of like a VAR of American football.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, is that it? But no, like it's like if at the end of the day, if it's up to the referee, then yeah, there's really no change.
Yeah. I think that's a good decision. So, Alex, how long have you been in the Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Well, I've been here since I arrived from France in 1997. Originally lived in Valley Ranch, very close to the Cowboys practice facility.
Yeah.
The first house that my dad bought was actually less than a mile from the Cowboys, the Cowboys practice facility. So I've been in DFW mainly my whole life.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Did you ever get an opportunity to go to any of those training camps or even the new facility, the Star?
I've driven to the Star before. I've never been to any of the camps or anything, but I've visited the Star. It's really nice. I haven't actually done the official tour, but I've seen the surroundings. I'm just like, well, that's how you got to put the environment. Like when there's these luxury stadiums, these luxury facilities, like you got to put the restaurants, everything, because you want to attract the people. And it's kind of fits on the environment of the history of the Cowboys, like the rich history.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. As far as the stadium goes, did you get a chance to visit Old Texas Stadium? Have you had a chance to see New Jerry World?
I've been to numerous Cowboys games. I've never actually been to a game at Texas Stadium. My first Cowboys game was actually in 2009 on Thanksgiving against the Oakland Raiders, who are now the Las Vegas Raiders, which was fun. In 2011, I went to a couple of games as well. I did go in 2010 against Chicago and Tennessee. 2011, I went against the Bills. That was fun against the Rams when DeMarco Murray had 253 yards of rushing.
Ooh.
But the most memorable game I went to was in 2012 when the Pittsburgh Steelers were in town, and the way that game ended was just unbelievable. I mean, so many Pittsburgh Steelers fans were in attendance, and Brandon Carr in overtime found a way to shut them up. Yeah, that's when the DeMarco Murray, Felix Jones were still there.
Yeah. Did you go to any other Thanksgiving games?
Unfortunately, not. I do hope to one day go to another Thanksgiving game.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I take that back. I did go back in 2012 when RG3 was a rookie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did. That was the last Thanksgiving game I went to. It was just I haven't thought about it so much because it wasn't really a good. It wasn't a good day for us Cowboys fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that happens.
Yeah, RG3 was sensational his rookie year. Then he never really quite stepped back from that injury, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
That happens. Do you remember your first Cowboys jersey?
I do. It was a Tony Romo jersey. It was a gift from my mom.
Oh,
Nice.
What brand was that? Was it Starter? Because I know he was sponsored by Starter.
I think so. It was the original like blue, the navy blue one sort of thing. It was an authentic one. It wasn't the one you just got at a grocery store. It was she bought it on NFL.com.
Nice. Yeah, so that was probably Reebok then, right?
Must have been.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I never thought about it because I was like, I'm just grateful that my mom got me a nice birthday gift that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, 100%, dude. That's got to be a good one too. I mean, he's a stud over there, and he's a legend.
He's more appreciated now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure, not in my experience, honestly, because I've always been the biggest Romo supporter, and even today I still get teased over it. And a lot of these fans just don't have the football sense. I'm like, how is it the quarterback's fault if the receiver is not catching the ball? How is it his fault if the defense can't do their job? I mean, Tony Romo always got an unfair amount of criticism.
Yep. Part of being a Cowboys quarterback, I guess.
Unfortunately, yes, that's the case.
So I know you have that NWO belt back there. What's the rest of your Cowboys memorabilia looking like? Do you have any signed stuff, any helmets, footballs?
Yeah, football right here.
Oh, perfect.
I actually used this football for my senior picture back in high school.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
There you go. So what's your game day ritual like? Do you live tweet? Do you, are you more on the reporting side of it, or, are you all out fan on Sundays or Thursdays or Mondays?
Basically all three of them. I will tweet like it's game day, go Cowboys. And then I'll tweet facts about, so far what's happened in the season. If the Cowboys are playing a certain team that they have a history with, like the 49ers, I'll tweet some facts, like especially from the 90s when those two teams would beat each other apart in the playoffs. Fortunately, I'm too young to remember that, but I like to keep the facts. Like, I'm a sports writer, and facts are a big part of my strategies because facts is what keeps the audience, like the eyes on your article. You want to keep the audience informed. You want to keep them. You want to give them a reason why they have to read the whole thing. That's why titles are so important in articles. But if I put facts, if I have people go like, I didn't know that, then that's a good thing. I'm teaching them something like that. And of course, the fan perspective will certainly kick in, and I'll probably say, hope they kick this team's butt. But yeah, all they're both personalities, my sports writing perspective and my fan perspective, they both, kick in, and it goes out of control sometimes.
Yeah, I think that happens with all of us.
Yeah. It's just harder for me because I'm a sports writer, so I got to stay objective. But
so it's your life.
It's my life. Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Any kind of ritual or like superstition do you have on Sundays or game day, I should say now?
Well, I always like to say I'd like to eat during the game. I don't like eating before the game because sometimes I always used to say you can't enjoy a football game without a snack.
There you go. So what does a bear eat, man? I'm curious.
It depends. Like if I'm with my parents, if I'm visiting my parents, whatever they have, I'll eat it. If I'm, with friends, if we're at a sports bar, usually order a steak. I love steak.
Oh, wow.
And lately I've been working on my weight because, so trying to keep my weight at a healthy part because, when I graduated college about 5 years ago, I was super overweight from all the aggravation eating, especially your senior year, when you're stressed, you need this to graduate. You just can't help but go on a barrage of consuming so much junk food. So, and then I was 23 and I weighed close to 300 pounds. Like, this is not good. I got to lose weight. So, and it's hard for me because, I'm a picky eater, and So it's just really hard for me to stay away from the junk food, but I'm doing my best to give that. But to answer the question, I try to keep away. I try to eat healthy as well because if you're eating something bad, if you're not feeling good, and it's interrupting the game, you're gonna miss something important. And,
Oh, yeah.
and of course, I have a Cowboys podcast, so after the game, I got to go and recap it. So I gotta watch the game because I use this strategy where I do a psychological examination. Like I see what happened because I go on and explain why this shouldn't have happened, what could have happened.
There you
It's
go.
really about telling the fans. I mean, I'm not gonna do what they do on the radio. I'm gonna give everything. I'm not gonna sugarcoat.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do you watch the game with the volume off? I know a lot of people, don't like to be influenced by the commentators and things like that. So it kind of gives you your own perspective.
I have sometimes, but if Tony Romo's calling the game, I'm gonna keep the volume on because
Yeah.
Tony Romo is such an amazing play caller.
Mm-hmm.
If one day if I get to do commentary with him, that's gonna be one of the biggest blessings in life.
Yep. I mean,
You have, the commentators always have like a little like zinger or like a one-liner. Do you got one yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
but when the time is right,
You're
I
still
will.
young, man. You still got this.
Absolutely.
yeah.
There you go.
Who do you consider the Cowboys' number one rival?
That's a good question. It's not Washington, and I'll explain why. Because the Cowboys and the Washington football team, there hasn't been anything lately.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that. I have to say it's got to be the Packers.
Packers. Okay. I was gonna actually say the Giants. All right.
Well, the Giants is still there, but since the days when Tony Romo and Eli Manning were in their prime, specifically from 2009 to about 2011, that was certainly a peak in the rivalry. Especially when we're this close to being the Giants, and then 4 minutes later they score 15 unanswered points and we lose. I mean, back in 2011, another game that I was at, we were up 34-22 with 4 minutes left, and then we choked. So, but the Giants are certainly there. The Eagles, the Eagles, it's always a problem, but lately I have to say it's got to be the Packers, especially because the playoffs.
Yeah, the playoff stuff, definitely. I think I'd give the Eagles number 2. And another one just to I think the Seahawks are up there too. It seems like we always have big games against the Seahawks, whether it be playoff or just regular season. They've showed us some problems throughout the years.
But yeah.
Anything else for this section, G?
No, nothing. I mean, I'm just kind of curious. So I have never been to Jerry World, and you guys both have, right? So I'm just kind of curious, when you guys are watching a game there, do you guys pregame hard and like go in there and just order what you want, or just are you guys more focused in? Both you guys on Cowboys fan, you can answer it individually if you want. What's it like there watching a game at Jerry World? Do you order a bunch of food, or halftime you wait till halftime? So what's going on there, guys?
Sometimes I will order. I would have ordered food, but the disadvantage in that case was that the food at Jerry World, I don't know how it is today. It's been so long since I've been to a game. It's been almost 9 years. But when I was going back then, the food there was actually good, but much like other stadium foods is pricey. But in the case of Jerry World, I mean, it is pricey, but the quality is actually, well, I should say was, because I don't know how it is today. The quality was actually superb. But sometimes I would not buy food because I don't like waiting in line, especially long lines. And again, I don't want to risk, getting a bad stomach, during the game and, like that. So sometimes it will, sometimes I won't. So it depends on the kind of game that it's going to be. Like if there's a lot of hype, if the Cowboys have a lot, on the line, then no, I just want to watch the game.
Yeah.
What about you, Duran?
Yeah, I've only been on Thanksgiving. I think I went like 4 years in a row, all of them on Thanksgiving. The food was amazing. They do like Thanksgiving dinner pretty much at the stadium. One thing that I did notice is they do have a lot of tailgaters, but it's not really a tailgating stadium. They have both of the ends of the stadium like opened up with screens that are showing games that are happening during the day. And it's more like people gather around the stadium and kind of party and get drinks on either end of the stadium. So I think that's pretty unique. I liked it.
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, I was just always curious because I don't know about you, Alex. I mean, obviously not, but that's actually on my bucket list of stadiums I want to go to. You know, I want to go to Arizona, Jerry World. I definitely want to go to Soldier Field and Lambeau Stadium. I think those, you know, so much history there. I mean, maybe not so much there at Jerry World yet, but I mean, do you have a bucket list of stadiums you'd like to see?
In a sense, but it's not necessarily for a football game. I'm actually going to be at Raymond James Stadium in about 2 weeks, and I think you guys know what for. I'm going to my first WrestleMania, and hopefully
nice.
I'll get to go when the next time they're in Arlington, which will be I think 2 years from now. It's supposed to be next year, but you know this whole thing kind of caused a lot of problems. But you know, my brother actually is the one who's visited several stadiums because you know he's a music guy. You know, he studied music. He used to be in a drum corps known as the Blue Devils, and he's performed and practiced in so many stadiums. So because of that, I kind of want to visit these other stadiums too. But for me, I'd like to go to these stadiums that actually have a history, like where famous games took place, where things like that, like Lambeau Field, obviously. You know, if Candlestick Park. I mean, I'm not sure what the status of Candlestick Park is, but Candlestick Park would have been okay. You know, that's unfortunate too because Candlestick Park was historic.
Oh yeah, you're telling me, man. You're telling me, you're preaching to the choir on that one for sure. Just a selfish question of mine, which, you know, gun to your head, wrestling or football? Which one you're choosing, man?
Well, because today I would say probably football.
Yeah. Okay. No, yeah.
Pro wrestling is just, you know, WWE is just not what it was anymore. I mean, I don't even watch WWE on a weekly basis because I don't like the content. I don't like the storylines that they do today. Like AEW would be basically what I would tune in to watch every week. I haven't done it in a while because for me, it's hard to enjoy a wrestling show if there's no fans there. Like you need the fans' energy in the building.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. Back in the day, the energy was crazy. I mean, I watched it in the 90s. And, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, who was still going till recently, but The Rock, guys like that. I mean, I feel like those were the days, and the content that they were putting out back then definitely wouldn't fly with what they put out nowadays.
Yeah, the days of the Attitude Era. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, man.
I was a kid, and you know, I would have. I don't know if I would have been more excited to go at a show than the time as a kid or as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, a little off topic here. We had a party years ago, obviously pre-COVID, and costume party turned into a wrestling party. So everyone dressed up as their favorite wrestler. My brother, shout out Rob, he dressed as a Brooklyn Brawler. I dressed up as The Rock, and we had it was just hilarious. I'll send you a photo of it, man. It was funny.
Yeah, I thought about. Yeah, I was actually had a chance. Like, you know, a friend of mine was going to do a Halloween party, and I thought, you know, next time I go to one, I'd like to dress up as an ECW hardcore extremist. Like buy an ECW. Like the problem is, it's hard to. If I'm going to get an ECW shirt, it's got to be an original one. I mean, I do have a replica of the ECW title, but unfortunately, it's not from Paul E's ECW. It's from, you know, when ECW was part of WWE. Which, I mean, most fans. You know, I've interviewed fans who were watching ECW at the time, and they say that they couldn't even last 10 seconds watching the programming that WWE had on ECW. Yeah, that's why I would say, like, yeah, the ECW from the 90s, that's Paul E's ECW. That's Paul Heyman, but, you know, we know him as Paul E. But yeah, you know, and, you know, as a kid, I once wanted to dress up as Sting. I mean, I wasn't a WCW kid, but I did see it sometimes. My parents wouldn't let me because they thought that Sting was too evil. But I said, no, Mom, he's actually a good guy, believe it or not.
Yeah, man. The Stinger.
Love
the
Stinger.
Stinger.
Yeah, and he's still wrestling. I'm like, wow.
I didn't know that.
I did not know that. I thought his last one was at the Levi Stadium. But damn, man, that's crazy, man. But all right, that's it on mine, man. I was gonna ask you your favorite wrestler, but man, looks like you have a lot. I don't even want to go into that.
I do have a favorite wrestler is Chris Jericho because he's still wrestling. He's still wrestling. That's why, because I've been watching him since I was a kid.
Duran, what about you? You got a favorite wrestler?
Stone Cold, but I remember the debut of WWF, Chris Jericho coming in, the countdown, Y2J.
Oh
yeah, mine has to be either Stone Cold or The Rock, man. Yep. I mean, it's selfish. I mean, shave my face, you know, shave my head. I look exactly like him, you know. But anyway, let's move on. Just kidding.
We talked about your favorite wrestler. Now we want to guess your favorite Cowboys player. G, you want to go first?
Yeah, he kind of hinted it, but you know what? I'm not gonna go there. I think I want to say it's something a little bit deeper. So I'm actually gonna go with Jason Witten. Just have a gut feeling. I don't know.
Jason Witten. Yeah, no, I'll take that. I'll go with Tony Romo.
Okay.
See, for me, it's always been difficult to decide between Tony Romo, Jason Witten, and DeMarcus Ware because for me, when it comes to having a favorite player, it's got to be a player that you actually grew up watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of Cowboy fans have been shocked to say, like, when they ask me who my favorite player is, I don't say Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, and I explain them all. I did not watch it when they were there, so for me, I'm gonna have to go to Marcus Ware because I was always a player. I love seeing defenses dominate and the way he would sack the quarterback. Create pressure. It was just unbelievable. And every time he had a sack, the way he would celebrate, he would do that ground hitting thingy. I was always so amazed by it. And DeMarcus Ware, his jersey is actually my second one, the second jersey I ever gotten.
That's a good one. That's a good one. We all know DeMarcus Ware, 9-year Cowboy, 9-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro. I mean, I figure you're just like most Cowboys fans. Were you excited to see him finally get that Super Bowl with Denver?
I was, and what made me so happy was that when he signed with Denver, a lot of people don't know that he had offers from the Giants, the Washington football team at the time of the Redskins. He even had an offer from the Saints, but he turned all those down because he didn't really. From what I hear, is he allegedly didn't want to play against his former team. I mean that's a legend. That's what that report said, but I don't want to say alleged. But I was just happy he went to a team that had a winning atmosphere, and he finally got that ring. I mean, he deserved it. It's just a shame he couldn't win it with us, but at the end of the day, he did retire as a Cowboy, so that's the best part.
Yeah,
he signed
he
that
deserved
1-year
that
contract
for sure.
on April 24th.
Yep, he deserved that. I mean, for Dallas Cowboys, just their team history and their team records, he's number 1 in sacks, number 1 in tackle for loss, number 1 in forced fumbles. He has a 20-sack season, and he has 8 years throughout his career of over 10 sacks. I mean, that's a Hall of Famer for you. Capped it off with the Super Bowl. I was very happy for him. I'm glad he got that, even though it wasn't with Dallas, but ideally it would have been with them. I always ask, I think this is a tough one though for DeMarcus, is if DeMarcus was Batman, who was his Robin? Who was his right-hand man that kind of co-starred with him on that defense?
That's a very, very good question.
Yeah, he was a one-man wrecking crew.
I don't know, but I think I would say if you asked me who would be Alfred, I would say that probably would be Greg Ellis.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a real good one.
As far as Robin goes, yeah. Well, if DeMarcus Ware had actually stayed with the Cowboys, going like from after 2013, I would have said DeMarcus Lawrence would have been the Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I had Jay Ratliff down. I had a little bit more time to just do research and think about it, but during that time, Jay Ratliff was playing defensive tackle. He had 27 tackles, or 27 sacks from that defensive tackle position, which, is pretty rare. You don't get many defensive tackles that put pressure on the quarterback like that. And ironically, it's something we need today.
Yeah.
And ever since we lost Marcus Ware, we have not been able to find a suitable pass rusher.
Uh-huh.
Oh. Yeah, I totally agree with that. What's crazy is that I always go back and watch some DeMarcus Ware videos because he was a technician in that aspect for sure. And seeing that he still works with, prospects coming up. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure he even goes to Von Miller puts on a camp, or not even a camp. I think he just puts on a clinic, and a lot of people who are in the NFL today still go to that. And I think DeMarcus Ware goes there as well. But the fact that he came from Troy, I'm not hating on Troy. I mean, it's a great university and everything, but not a whole bunch of NFL prospects come from there.
Yeah.
See, basically, you're basically proving the fact that a lot of players, you don't need to be a player from a big school to succeed in the NFL.
Oh no!
Because based on the last 10 years or so, there's a bad track record of players coming from big schools who don't make it in the NFL. I mean, the biggest bust in NFL history went to an SEC school. I think you know who I'm talking about. But let's take a look at the list of all these players who went to small schools. Jerry Rice, for example.
Mississippi State.
Terrell Owens.
Mm-hmm.
Chattanooga.
Tony Romo went to Eastern Illinois.
Yeah.
Michael Vick.
Vatek.
Yeah.
One guy
Joe Montana.
One guy that kind of came to mind, small school, type of dude, pass rusher, Khalil Mack.
Oh yeah, Buffalo.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
fairly a new university too, weren't
Exactly.
they? Yeah, I mean, how did we miss Khalil Mack?
Yeah.
I mean, my brother would fucking be pissing right now. He'd be like, man, what the fuck, you know? But it's Khalil Mack. That's his favorite player. That's why I say that. But dude, that guy is a straight beast, and he's still doing it to this day. And coming from the University of Buffalo when it was fairly new, yeah, that's a really good one right there. I'm trying to think of many more, but man, like you said,
Ryan
listen up all those.
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, came out of Harvard. I mean, Juice came from
Harvard.
Harvard as well. Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk came from Harvard.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy. I mean, he's not a starter anymore, but he does have a Super Bowl underneath his belt. You know, you got Joe Flacco. He came from Delaware. You know,
It was originally at
a whole bunch
Pittsburgh,
of
if I'm
people-
correct.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I believe he was originally at Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Was
he was
Joe Flacco.
Pittsburgh. That's why when Pat Devlin was coming out, he had the exact same route. Came from Pittsburgh, transferred to Delaware, balled out, but he didn't really do much, you know. But you know, I think that puts a lot of pressure on people, you know, as well. Because like if you're coming from like say Buffalo, there's a prospect coming under Buffalo, they're gonna ask you to, you know, perform like Khalil Mack did. So.
So another example, Michael Strahan. I mean, Texas Southern University.
Yeah, that's true. I totally how can you forget about the sack leader? That's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know he went
Well,
there.
the list is so long. It's hard to remember all of them.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
One Cowboy that we might have to shout out right here is Larry Allen, Sonoma State.
State.
He's right here. Yeah,
Sonoma State.
I mean, he was the best guard during his time. You know, Hall of Famer, 6-time All-Pro, Super Bowl champion, and he's right for where me and Gennaro live. They no longer have a football program, but of
That was
course
last year.
he's a legend around here just for doing that.
So I'm just curious. Do you remember Larry Allen playing? Alex?
Yeah, he played from 1994 to 2005, I believe.
Yeah. So how did it feel from
I'm trying to
him
think of somebody
trading in
else.
his colors of? I mean, I know how my auntie felt. Duran's mom, like she hated it, but how did it feel having him trade in that Cowboys decal for a 49ers decal? Just curious.
Well, from a fan perspective, obviously it was not great, but I guess you could say he did what he had to do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he went
I mean,
home.
he still thrived. Yeah, he went home. Yeah, I agree with that.
I didn't feel too bad about that one. I think what was more upsetting was Witten trying to squeeze one more year out in Oakland, or even Emmitt Smith going to Arizona. I think those two, I was more like, why are you doing that? You've proven so much already.
Yeah.
And yeah, did any of those guys stand out to you, Alex?
No, not exactly. I mean, keep in mind, Emmitt Smith was before I was a diehard fan. I mean, Emmett, I
Okay.
did see a little bit of Emmett, but go back to Larry Allen.
Mhm.
Now that I look at it, you know, it doesn't bother me at all because you know he went to San Fran, but San Francisco was horrible at the time.
Mhm.
So
They were.
it's like, okay, he just went home, you know, played 2 seasons, you know, collected paychecks and finished his season, finished his career that way, you know. Did win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys, so you know
Mhm.
he was at that point of his career where it's like, you know, just close it out, at least play at home, and then boom.
Yep. Did you think Witten needed to come back for that last year in Oakland?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Me
So
neither.
as a
Okay, hold
go
on.
ahead. Go
I
ahead.
thought for a second you were asking like if he came back after going off the commentary booth. I was certainly not for Witten coming back, but if talk about Witten going to in Vegas to play for a season, it's like, well, the Cowboys really had no use for him, and he still wanted to play, so I guess you know the Raiders said, all right, come on over, and boom.
Yeah, I feel like Gruden wanted like those leadership type of guys, but I mean, hearing the
Does it every
story,
year.
Duran, you know the stories better than I do. Go ahead, man, about him being into practice. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, we know he's legendary just for practicing very hard. Every snap plays 100%. Kind of set the tone for all Dallas Cowboys practices in the time he was there. But to me, maybe I know Gruden wanted to bring in some veterans and do things like that, but maybe he just wanted to get that, you know, announcing booth stuff cleared out of people's memories and give them one more thing to think about rather than that.
Yeah. So how did you, as a
I agree.
fan
That's
of broadcasting, how did you feel when Jason Witten and I just say Jason Witten because I'm not even going to bring up Booger, but how did you feel about Jason Witten commentating?
Well, I don't like saying that he was not good at his job. I mean, I can't criticize him because, he has the job that I want. I'm not there yet. So who am I to speak? Obviously, every commentator is going to have, his pros and cons, but it just kind of seems to me that the commentary booth is just not where he's destined to be.
Mhm.
He's where he's destined to be now. He's actually the head coach of a high school that's actually close to where my parents live.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's a private school. It's in Argyle. I think it's called Liberty Christian High School.
Mhm.
I feel like he's better off, coaching than he is in the commentary booth.
Yep.
And I'm asked if I ever think Witten will coach the Cowboys, be the tight ends coach, and everybody's talking, Romo should be the quarterbacks coach one day. I'm like, oh, that would be awesome, but you got to keep in mind sometimes it's just not meant to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there's rumors with him in Tennessee as well.
Yeah, his alma mater. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. And then I feel like a lot of Cowboys players come back as coaches. I mean, you had Bobby Carpenter, right? He played for y'all. He's coming back and coach. Colombo, he's coming back and coaching and whatnot. So I feel like he'd be a good fit in that, coming back and coaching the tight ends. I mean, he knows what it's like. Yeah. The tight end is kind of changing, but at the same time, you definitely need a tight end like Jason Witten. I mean, my earliest memory of Witten is run that when his helmet fell off and he just kept on running. I thought that was badass.
Yep.
One of the best plays in Cowboys history.
Yep. And hopefully the next coach, when he decides to retire, is Sean Lee. Come back and coach those linebackers, Sean.
Oh,
Lee.
yes.
We want to keep you around.
What was that? What we were watching, that Amazon series. Why can't I think about it?
All or Nothing.
Yeah, All or Nothing. Seeing him, after Rod Marinelli showed the lion attacking like a gazelle, and you're watching Sean Lee just breaking down how smart he is as a player.
Yep.
And that was so awesome to see, because I feel like a lot of Penn State linebackers are built like that. They're so smart. They're so stout and how everything was. I mean, you had that in Bowman, you had that in Lee, you had that in Arrington. So seeing him breaking down that defense or that offense and knowing where to attack and coaching up guys like Van Der Esch and Smith, he is in his natural role. You're right in coaching. So totally agree.
That's why I believe Sean Lee does have a future in coaching.
Yeah.
Basically, at this point, I did an episode on my Cowboys show not long ago about Sean Lee and went to when he was drafted. Talked about his the injury history of his days at Penn State, and I explained that I think at this point he should retire. And the Cowboys should bring him in as a linebackers coach if the position's available, but I'm not sure. But he should definitely come back in a coaching role with the Cowboys because I think from that mentality that he has, I think coaching is certainly in Sean Lee's life.
Yep.
It fits basically.
It fits.
I agree. Well, we're going to move.
For Sean Lee, though, before we move on, the sad part about Sean Lee is, as great as he was, what's so hard to deal with is the dude, was hurt a lot, and sometimes he's still playing. He didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say he didn't care. He just did not want to let the teammates down and the fans down. But I would say, look, if he's hurt and he can't play, I understand. I mean, obviously, there's fans that are still, going to be mean and say nasty things, but they don't know what it's like to be a football player. But Sean Lee, it's just so sad. As great as he was, the injury history is just man. But at the end of the day, I praise Sean Lee because he always came back better. He always worked so hard to come back better than ever. I mean, he wanted to make up for the time that was taken away.
Yep.
That's how much he loves football.
Yeah, he never played 16 games in a season.
No.
Poor guy.
I'm just kind of curious, though. I mean, since we're on players, do you have a player that you feel was super underappreciated in the Cowboys organization?
I do. Tony Romo.
Tony Romo, okay. I feel like he's
I'll tell you
there.
why. I'll tell you why. Because this man broke his back, his collarbone, had numerous other injuries for this team, okay, only to be ridiculed by numerous fans and by fans from all over the league, okay? Tony Romo never had an offensive line protect him until 2014, okay? And he never had a defense that could actually do their job, Okay, that's why he couldn't. He could never make it far in the freaking playoffs. Okay, Romo had a hell of a throwing arm, one of the best throwing arms I've ever seen. The dude could throw. You cannot doubt that. And I always tell people, for a guy who supposedly choked, he had like 30 come from behind wins. So that's pretty good for a guy who chokes, as those haters like to say. But
comeback kid.
The bottom line is, and what I like about Romo is he never made it difficult to sign, and he took pay cuts. Okay, that's the example that players have to set, because the way the NFL is today with these players being selfish, holding out because they want to get the money truck dumped on them. The reputation of the game today is just permanently damaged. Like, football is not what it was in the 90s, 80s, and 70s. It's a freaking comedy act now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that him and Tom Brady had that in common as far as taking pay cuts. I know that, Tom Brady had a TB12 and that was going for him, but taking pay cuts so other players can get paid and stay with the team, being that leader and being unselfish, I agree with you on that aspect for sure.
Yep. One more underrated guy I just have to shout out because he just recently retired. LP Ladisor, 253 consecutive games. That's number 6 all time in the NFL. He was the long snapper for the Cowboys. Just very consistent. You don't know him because he never fucked up. And that's exactly what you want from your long snapper.
If you're talking about the long snapper, you're fucked up, and it's time for a new one. So I agree with you on that. A few years ago, the Niners, we went through a plethora of guys, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm tired of it. We had finally landed on one. Shout out to Tabor Pepper. Awesome right there. But yeah, man, it looks like you guys are in the long snapping right now, huh?
Yeah,
they did sign a long snapper just I think last week.
Yeah,
the dude who played a few years with the Rams.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course we have Bones. We have Bones Falso, who was at the Rams, so he brought him on over. So hopefully that sews up that position for another 15 years or whatever it was.
Yeah. All right. Well,
we talked about a little bit. This is probably going to be a hard question. We want to know your favorite Dallas Cowboys coach of all time. I mean, we got Jason Garrett, who recently left, Wade Phillips, Bill Parcells, Dave Campo, Barry Switzer, Jimmy Johnson, and I'm sure you don't remember those last couple guys, or even Tom Landry.
Well, obviously, if you ask my favorite coach, it's definitely not Jason Garrett.
Okay.
It's definitely not Dave Campo.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, if I'm going to say my favorite coach, it's a guy that I'm so very young to remember. It's got to be Tom Landry in this case, because in my case, every coach that's been with the Cowboys, nothing's really gone out of it. I mean, Wade Phillips at first, I did admire him because Wade Phillips is one of the most brilliant defensive-minded guys in NFL history. I actually suggested that Wade Phillips be brought in as defensive coordinator after we fired Mike Nolan. Of course, I got made fun of for that because, I'm like, look, I understand that Wade Phillips' head coaching tenure did not go that well, but since then he's made some changes to his defensive philosophy. I mean, look, he took the Broncos when they won the Super Bowl. Denver's defense was so dominant that year. That the Rams defense went to the Super Bowl. I mean, look, since then he's actually done great. So why not bring him back? But to answer your question, I have to go with Tom Landry because Tom Landry. When we think about the most legendary Dallas Cowboy of all, I mean, it's Tom Landry.
Yep. I agree. Wade Phillips, we know he has, defensive coaching in his blood, is passed down from his dad. He's definitely better coordinator than he probably was a head coach. But if there was a right answer to this question, I think you want the right one. Tom Landry. He's the coach there for 29 years, a record of 418-50. His playoff record is 20-16, 2 Super Bowls. I mean, that playoff record is more games than a lot of coaches have survived throughout the NFL. And yeah, he's the most iconic Cowboy, as you said. There is the statue in front of the stadium of him. You walk by it pretty much every time you go into the stadium. So that's a great answer. Even though I'm sure I didn't get to see him coach much. So I think that is the right answer.
That's unfortunate, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Never got to watch Tom Landry coach.
Yep.
It was fired 4 years before I was born.
Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy because I was looking it up and he actually has 6 ties on that. I mean, I'm not taking away from his wins whatsoever, but to have 6 ties.
Yeah, you coached
like,
a lot.
Oh yeah, you coached exactly. You coached a lot. Like that's. Oh man, that's a gut punch right there. That's a liver shot. Just like, dude, 6 ties. It's like, well, hey man, I also have like 300 wins. It's like, oh shit. All right, never mind.
Well, keep in mind the game was played different back then, and there were not offensive and defensive philosophies like that have evolved over the years. So I mean, when football, when he took over the Cowboys, the Cowboys had no direction and no nothing. So football was just not the same as it is today. I mean, that's not a good thing. I mean, football, like I said, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, there was passion for the game. There was stuff to look forward to. But looking at it now, it's just this is just sad that football's come down to this.
Yep. I know. I just want to bring it back to Jason Garrett. I know you're not a fan of him. It kind of touched to me on the same, the same thing as Tony Romo not getting enough credit. Jason Garrett wasn't horrible. He was there for 10 seasons. Of course, we know he didn't win a Super Bowl. He was 85 and 67. He only had one losing season throughout his career there. I mean, a lot of 8-8s were there. I think he had 4 8-8s. But his playoff record was 2-3. The clapper, he took a lot of heat throughout the years, but I kind of think he was decent. He might be one of those guys that might be better as an offensive coordinator than maybe a head coach. I mean, if you look back at his career, he always needed an offensive coordinator. He never quite could, master both of those roles at the same time, as we see some coaches do nowadays.
Well, it's a shame how things went for Jason Garrett, because when Jason Garrett took over as the interim as a full-time head coach after he was the interim head coach in 2010, I was all for it.
Yeah.
But the problem is, after how I saw things in 2011, I was like, something's just not right. But then in 2012, after, we had so many injuries and, our defense was just so horrible, I was like, well, okay, the injuries. But after 2013, after we went 8-8 for the third straight year, Jerry Jones should have fired him. I mean, the reason why I say Jason Garrett's tenure was horrible was because, when he should have been fired in 2013, Jerry Jones didn't do it. And I think Jones should have done it. The problem with Jason Garrett was, is the conservative play calling. That's been such a problem. I mean, Kellen Moore seems to have adopted it. So I pray the fact that Kellen Moore is staying with the Cowboys, like, he's got to get the bits of Jason Garrett that's in his head. He has to get them out. Like, conservative play calling is dooming us. I mean, this conservative play calling, it's old school.
Yeah.
The football has evolved. Like, you need to modernize. Okay. I mean, you got to build a defense based on the players that you have. Okay. Yep. And the problem with Jason Garrett was, all these questionable, plays and whatever, and all this, arguing and like, who's in control. It's just, it was a mess. But at the end of the day, I mean, the fact that Jason Garrett was not fired after 2013 is what kind of really damaged the reputation, in his coaching. I mean, it's not all on him, but all the years of wasted talent and like that, it already hurts us enough. Again, we've gone 25 years since we've been to a freaking NFC championship. We haven't done anything since 1996 overall.
I totally agree. And I think you bring up a good point with the conservative play calling, because I always think back and I feel like the Cowboys play really well, like in 2-minute drill situations or when they're playing from behind. It always seems like they seem to turn it on. And I've thought to myself plenty of times, why don't we just come out and start playing this way from the beginning? Like we're down 14, like we're down 17, and just start throwing the ball, doing up-tempo type of stuff and running the offense that it seems like a lot of defenses can't stop.
That's honestly a good question, because that's it's a problem. Like, we go down early in the game, there's probably a 20% chance we can come back and win. But the time where Jason Garrett's supposed play calling was actually pretty intriguing was in 2014. Like that game against the Rams when we were down 21-0 and we were still running the ball. And and if we're talking about play calling, the time when Bill Callahan was calling the plays in 2013. I was like, that game against the Packers when we were up 26-3 and then we ended up losing, it's because, we weren't running the ball. We were still passing. I'm like, what's going on here, guys? I mean, where's the common sense? You're up 26-3. Why would you keep passing? You got to run the clock. You got to keep wearing them out. But I think for some of these guys, I argued back then that they're stuck in an old school philosophy. I mean, it was merely my opinion, but I can't give a direct answer why things went that way. I mean, I'm not a football coach. I don't know how they do their thing, but the way the Cowboys offense goes, sometimes they go in a way that doesn't really fit the environment of the talent that's in their pool.
Maybe that's from the ownership down. You never know. One thing I can say great about Jason Garrett, or that I liked about him, I mean, this might be more credit to the Jones family or even Will McClay at this point, was the drafting history. 11 Pro Bowlers in 9 years. It seems like they always hit on their first round draft pick. I mean, with the exception of maybe like Morris Claiborne or someone like that who, didn't make it to the Pro Bowl, but it seemed like they were decent drafters. I don't think you can give Garrett all that credit because of Will McClay there. But yeah, that's pretty much the positive thing that I could say about the Garrett era.
I'm just glad you guys got Mike Nolan out. I mean, if you saw our previous interviews, all the 49er fans, their number one answer right away was Mike Nolan. So
yeah,
glad you guys got him out of there. When you guys hired him as a defensive coordinator, I told Duran, I was like, not a fan of that.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a year or two to get these staffs together. Hopefully that was the only reason.
Yeah. But last thing I say is, when we brought in Dan Quinn, I actually liked the hire. Everybody was, on Twitter saying, the 28-3. I'm like, okay, he was the head coach, and look, and that's in the past. Like, stop worrying. I'll tell those fans, stop worrying about the past.
Yeah,
let's focus on the future. Like whatever Dan Quinn failed at or accomplished, we could talk about the accomplishments, but the point is, like, okay, fine, I get it. Obviously his head coaching tenure will always be overshadowed by the fact that he blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl, but he was the defensive coordinator in Seattle. But then people argue, well, that's because he had good players. But I'm like, that's true. That he's definitely going to need the Cowboys to give him these good players. And the Cowboys have actually been doing some decent free agency signings lately. All these players on secondary. I think they're doing just that. And Dan Quinn obviously is not going to use the same scheme that he used back in the Seattle days. Because remember, you can never go with the same exact scheme. That's actually that's a doom thingy. Like, you'll be doomed. But for Dan Quinn, he has something that he needs. Like, he has a fresh start. Okay.
Yep.
He's defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. He's got a fresh start. And I'm sure he's going to do fine. I mean, the defense I don't expect it to be perfect, but, but bringing in Dan Quinn, in my opinion, was actually a very good idea. And the dude they also brought in from Atlanta, who's also a defensive coach, I forgot his name, but, the fact that he's bringing in some guys that he's worked with before, a couple of players, that we signed also, like, we're really doing something right there. So for the Dan Quinn, I expect Dan Quinn actually to do just fine. I think he'll be okay.
Yep. Fingers crossed. Let's move on a little bit. We want to know your earliest Cowboys memory. Do you have one? I think you might have mentioned it, of watching it with your dad, the very first game that you watched.
That was definitely the first memory. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, for me, I remember back in the day, the stars on the shoulders, those classic jerseys, probably Deion Sanders playing, because I remember him playing wide receiver and cornerback. To me, that really stood out. And, the era of Irving, Aikman, and Emmitt Smith. I mean, I was too young to really realize what I was watching, but those are the things, especially growing up in a Cowboys household, that just stood out to me. G, does one thing stand out to you? First thing about the Cowboys?
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Alex?
Well, here's a memory I think we'll all agree with.
Which one?
The day that Terrell Owens got plummeled.
Oh, yeah. George Teague.
George Teague. Yeah, I was like, what was his name again?
George Teague. He immediately became a Cowboys legend by hitting T.O. out of the star. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was 2000. Yeah, that was 2000, September 24th.
Yeah, it was 2000. That. Yeah.
I have that T-shirt. I didn't want to wear it today out of respect for the Cowboys fan.
You should have worn it.
I have that T-shirt, man. When he scored,
it was 20 years ago, so who cares?
Yeah, I believe it was Jeff Garcia. He threw him I remember him sprinting, and I was like, "Oh, what's he sprinting for?" Like all hyped. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
As soon as he stood in the star, I was like, "Wow, that's Ballsy
Someone
right
tried
there.
to do it again this or maybe last year. Yeah, it was last year because Byron Jones knocked him out. I forget who it was. But Byron Jones didn't even let him get close. So that's a thing in Dallas now where I don't see many people doing that again. Maybe Juju will attempt it. That's it.
Well, if I were him, I would not.
People will hate him even more.
Just don't think about it, dude.
Yep.
Just don't.
Let's move on a little bit. We want to know your favorite Cowboys memory of all time. It could be a playoff win, a comeback, a game that you attended, a draft pick, anything like that stand out to you?
There's a lot that comes to mind, but there's one that stands out, and it always will. It was in 2014. The Houston Texans were in town. I think you know where this is going. The one play, Tony Romo single-handedly made J.J. Watt look silly.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Yep, the spin
J.J.
move.
Watt just broke free. Tyron Smith couldn't even, never had a chance. J.J. Watt is running full speed. Romo sees him, and then Romo waited. He didn't do it right away. He waited to the perfect time. And then he spun. J.J. Watt fell. He threw the ball. The way he threw the ball, and then it was caught. And I was just amazed. Like, there was a Texans player, that was close, that extended their arm. And I was actually surprised the ball didn't get deflected.
Yeah.
But Tony Romo single-handedly spins and makes J.J. Watt fall and throws one of the best touchdown passes I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was – it's like he had eyes in the back of his head. He obviously knew J.J. Watt was coming pretty much untouched off the edge. J.J. Watt lowers his head. He spins around and throws about a 50-yard touchdown to Terrence Williams. Yep, that definitely a classic play.
One of the best plays I've ever seen.
It's up there to me with that Jason Witten play, the no helmet against the Eagles, the catch. I mean,
Monday
night, those are plays that not many players could make in that. One thing I did want to bring up is one of my favorite memories is just the Dak Zeke rookie year. Of course, we know Dak Prescott got the rookie of the year that year. He had 29 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, which kind of set the pace for his career of being, not a turnover guy, knowing that he could do it. Zeke had 1,631 yards, 16 touchdowns, led the league in rushing. Is there anything that really stood out to you that year? Did you think, I know you had to feel bad for Tony Romo. He was on the bench that year, but is there anything that stands out to you then?
Well, from that season, it was certainly good to see the Cowboys go 13-3. But I was certainly excited because I felt Prescott could certainly be the guy.
Yeah.
But, the problem is, and it was certainly great to see Zeke, but that was actually the final time that we had a good offensive line. Like, that offensive line wall that we had that season, after that, we never really saw it again.
I agree.
I mean, that's the sad part. So that's the memory of 2016. Zeke Elliott, running all over the field. Having an immense offensive line. Blocking for him. So that's the memory that comes to mind. Like, the last time that the Cowboys had an offensive line.
Yep, I could agree with that. At least a completely healthy offensive line with everyone there that needs to be. Yep. Another one that stood out to me, 2018, is that playoff win versus the Seahawks. Dak Prescott, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was that game where he did like the QB draw at the goal line. I think he was like at the 10-yard line. It wasn't the goal. He flipped over and was down at like the 1-yard line.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yep. Zeke that game, 137, a touchdown. Amari Cooper, 7 catches for 106. So all the studs there were pretty much doing their part, and we got a playoff win, which we desperately needed.
We did, and bring up Prescott. Last season, the day that he got hurt, that touchdown that he caught. I think it was Cedric. I think Cedric Wilson was the one. It was on a fake play, and then it was unbelievable.
Never expect Cedric Wilson to do it.
Well, they re-signed him, so maybe we'll see it again.
Yep, he's back. He is back. The last thing that I wanted to bring up was it's now like a retrospect thing, but it's kind of legendary for exactly how it turned out. 2014 NFL draft. Jerry Jones desperately wanted Johnny Manziel. As the story goes, he had to be pretty much physically talked out of it by his son. And we ended up drafting all-pro, multiple all-pro guard Zach Martin in that one. And just looking back on that could have been a disaster for us easily.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought that up because I was praying to God. I did not want Johnny Manziel with the Cowboys. I was never a fan of Johnny Manziel. Not because, okay, I mean, I'm not just the fact that he won the title as a freshman because I was, growing up a Longhorn fan. It has nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. It's his behavior, all that stuff. I was not a fan of it. Okay. And I told people, like, if he comes into the Cowboys, he's behaving that way, partying all the time, getting in trouble, he's okay. Mm-hmm. But that day, when Stephen Jones did what he did, I told people, well, Stephen Jones stood up to his father I'm sure he stood up with him before, but this is like the time that this is probably the time like he's never stood up to his dad that way before.
Yeah, I agree.
So I told people, well, this is probably the beginning of something. Stephen Jones is one day going to take over, mm-hmm. but I think that's a sign that Stephen Jones is going to do things different once he takes over.
Yep.
Look, if Johnny Manziel didn't even last long in the league, I mean,
oh no,
did he? I mean, so did he even accomplish anything with the Browns?
No,
did he even
make nothing on the field. He accomplished some stuff off the field, which he's most memorable for. But even, he wasn't even like, I don't think his arm was as impressive as, that type of player needed to be. I mean, he was a scrambler. He made a lot of plays, moving around in the pocket and stuff. But to me, his size, his stature, without the arm, I think it was he was an exciting player, but it's the type of thing that only works in college.
Yeah.
He was not ready for the NFL.
Yeah.
Not at all. I think, in my opinion, he probably should have played college football at least one more season.
Yeah, I don't know if
that still wouldn't have guaranteed a change because, like I said, it's his behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
Yep. I agree. Let's move on Zach Martin
was amazing.
Yep. Oh, yeah. We're going to move on a little bit. We want to know your worst Cowboys memory. It could be a player leaving, a playoff loss, an injury, anything like that stand out to you?
Oh, there's a lot, but again, here's the one that's always going to stand out. Apparently, the refs or the NFL not knowing what a catch is. The day that Dez Bryant got robbed of what should have been the greatest catch of his career. Yeah. I don't care when anybody says, I don't care if I have to hear from Packer fans. Dez Bryant caught that ball. That was a catch.
Yeah, I think in today's NFL, it probably would be a catch because of the whole football move 2 feet down type of thing. But that was the 2014 NFC Championship. The Cowboys were down 5. There was about 4 minutes. I think it was like 3 something left in the fourth quarter. But Dez Bryant, of course, he's down at like the 1 yard line. And at that time we had DeMarco Murray, of course, and that offensive line that probably would have got in on the next play or the play following that. But I think in today's football, even Packers fans would probably say, hey, back then, no, it wasn't a catch. I mean, we've talked about it before that Calvin Johnson, he caught the ball pretty much with one hand, braced himself, put the ball in the hand on the ground, and then stood up, and they said that wasn't a catch. So back then, the NFL did not know what a catch was. It seems like in the last couple of years, they've kind of got on top of it, and that's not that big of an issue. But even today, we still see some things that are pretty close, but I don't think one will ever go down as controversial as that.
3 years later, they rewrote the rules.
Yeah, they updated it pretty much because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, people argue that the Cowboys should have run the ball, but keep in mind, it was a 4th and 5 play.
Oh, yeah.
And DeMarco Murray, had already, in that game, mm-hmm. that was that fumble that kind of halted our momentum and gave the momentum back to the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, it was actually the divisional playoffs. It wasn't the NFC Championship.
Oh, okay.
But still, but don't worry. Yeah. But I mean, it was sad because when DeMarco Murray fumbled the ball, we had a 14-7 lead. We were driving down the field. So he fumbles the ball, and I think Julius Peppers recovered it, or maybe Julius Peppers was one who forced it. But anyway, I just remember that Julius Peppers had a good day that day. One of the best defensive ends for of watching as a kid. But yeah, I mean, that catch. I mean, when the referee said, the play is reversed. I mean, my heart dropped.
Yeah.
I mean, I even had Bryant's life, was just taken away.
Mm-hmm. And then the classic Dez reaction.
I mean, even Tony Romo, the game got emotional. I mean, this was one of the best. He was playing against the team that he grew up loving.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually playing great, and and he made a great pass.
Yep.
I mean, the way remember, like he was in the pocket, he was under pressure, he stood away, and they got free, and then saw Dez. I mean, I'm kind of imitating, and he just tosses the ball the way it was, and then, bam.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which one hit you worse? I mean, you could pick one of the Tony Romo injuries, but I'm going to pick the preseason back injury that ultimately Dak Prescott came in and took over for the rest of the season with. Or was it just the most recent one, Dak Prescott ankle injury? Which one got you the most?
It has to be the Romo one from preseason, because the way he was hit and the way he was on the ground, we couldn't even see his face. I thought Tony Romo's neck was broken.
Uh-huh.
And when people, I swear, I am not blowing smoke up here, but I've seen fans or NFL players on Twitter make fun of Tony Romo's injuries, and that is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
The fact that in one play can break his neck and he's paralyzed, and people are gonna laugh at that. How disgusting could a human being be to even joke about stuff like that?
Yeah.
When he got hit, the way he did, and because when he got hit, his neck kind of did that.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Tony Romo's neck was broken.
Yeah.
I was like, holy. But then when I saw him get up on his own, I was like, okay, it's not that bad, but he is hurt.
Yeah.
But I was like, either way, I think it's the end of it, because one more hit could be, he'll never walk again. He could never walk again. So I was like, you know what? For his own good, I think, he may need to just, stop it now. Because Romo's my favorite player and I care about him. So I'm just like, it's just scared. Like, seeing a player get hurt, like, Dak Prescott's foot, when you see a player, whether it's for a team you hate, like, the fact is it's a human being.
Mm-hmm.
No human being should have to suffer like that. And it's just scary, because you imagine, what if it happened to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with you on that one. It's just Tony Romo's history all before that, the injuries. It kind of seemed like, this was going to be the year where he had weapons, the line. I mean, it was his last push and go. And then you see that injury happen. And to me, it was kind of like, all right, I think this is it. I mean, Dak Prescott, his ankle injury was brutal. I saw it, but in my heart, I knew he's going to come back. Eventually he's going to come back and get back on that horse and play football again. But Tony Romo's, I was kind of like, I think this is it, man. Just how severe the injury was. And, I didn't see the commentating stuff coming into fruition, but he made the right choice.
Mm.
Yeah.
100% agree with that.
The back injury history was already bad enough.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, the back, the collarbone twice, the broken ribs, the punctured lung, it's the list goes on, and of course stuff that we probably will never even know about. Well, let's move on to the last section here, future expectations. Let's start with just the free agents that the Cowboys have signed recently. We got the safety who's kind of moving back to linebacker. Moving to linebacker. Keanu Neal coming in from the Falcons. DeMonte Casey playing safety still. Jaron Kerr, safety / special teamer. Ty Nitschke, Carlos Watkins, Terrell Basham, Brett Urban. Is there one of those guys that you're kind of more excited about than the others?
To be honest, I'm actually really excited about Keanu. Although the hiccup in his case is the fact that I think from 2018, 2017 as well, like there was 2 years where he only played in like 5 games. Like there was one game in
injury history.
or opening week. His injury history, yes. But again, it's a fresh start, and he's going somewhere where he's very familiar with his defensive coordinator. So there's going to be a bit of harmony, and they're going to both be on the same page. And the Cowboys need that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited about that. Carlos Watkins, I'm sure he's going to do great. But the con of that signing is he's a defensive tackle, if I'm correct, and he was part of the Texans defense that allowed the league worst of rushing yards. But again, that was in the past. I mean, that was with the Texans. He's coming to the Cowboys now, but the Cowboys did have the second worst rushing defense. But still, it's under you're under new leadership in defense. Things are changing. So again, it's a fresh start, and these dudes are talented. So it's a new chapter. It's a fresh start. It's a new day.
Yep. I was a fan of Watkins coming out of Clemson. I know I haven't followed him much since he's been in the league, but he was a guy that was I forget exactly where he was, but he was at the top of that list. Regarding guys that have left, we have Tyron Crawford, who retired, Chidobe Awuzie to the Bengals. Xavier Woods, I just found out today, is going to the Vikings. Couple guys we have out there right now. Aldon Smith, he's still a free agent. No one signed him yet. Joe Thomas is at the Texans. Chris Westry, who was the 6'4" corner, who I thought had a little bit more promising career, ended up signing with the Ravens. Is there one of those guys that you kind of, are disappointed that they left and won't be coming back?
Absolutely not.
None?
First of all, I'm not surprised that Xavier Woods left.
Okay.
And to be honest, losing him and Chido Awuzie is really no big loss.
Okay.
Chido Awuzie also had injury problems, but Xavier Woods and Chido Awuzie had very difficulty on the coverage. Okay. So and the fact that both these guys did not made very little to an average impact. In the last 4 years, I'm like, well, since we haven't really seen anything from them, what makes us think we're going to see something from in the future? So, so I was like, and because we signed these other guys, these young guys that have some experience and have actually done a couple of things, I think we're better off.
Yep. Yeah, the two
guys. I mean, that's no disrespect to those guys, but
it's part of the game.
But I don't think losing Xavier Woods is really a big deal. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, and I honestly don't think the Cowboys could have re-signed him if they could anyway. I don't think it was going to happen anyway.
The two guys that I off of that list I would have wanted back was Xavier Woods and maybe Joe Thomas, maybe Aldon Smith. I mean, he started off hot but petered off towards the end. But Joe Thomas came in, played some solid backup linebacker. I mean, I wouldn't want to go out of the way to pay him, but those are maybe the two guys. I think I kind of expected Cheeto to leave, get his paycheck, because the Cowboys usually don't pay. He just wasn't as good enough to pay that top dollar type of thing.
You guys also re-signed Jordan Lewis. I think that was a good signing by you guys.
Yeah.
I actually loved it. Jordan Lewis, this dude really earned his payday. Okay.
Yep.
And what I like about Jordan Lewis is this dude's got speed. Now, unfortunately, like Chido Awuzie, he did have problems with coverage, but Jordan Lewis did make some impact. Like, he could run to the – I mean, I've seen plays he runs to the quarterback just like that and then sacks them. He's got tackles for a loss. I mean, this – Jordan Lewis is really good. And what we have to praise him for is that he didn't even demand a lot of money. He just – all he wanted was a fair amount, and he signs a 3-year deal, and that deal's good. So, re-signing Jordan Lewis was a very good move, in my opinion.
Yep. Just keep him in the slot. I think he'll be fine. That's fine. That's fine there.
So as far as Aldon Smith back, I know you were talking about earlier about pass rush. Adding him back, I feel like is essential for you guys now. Are you guys going to address that in the draft?
I hope so. What do you think, Alex?
If he was told that he's not going to be brought back, I don't expect the Cowboys to change their mind. I mean, how often will a team change their mind after telling a player that they have no place to be signing, and it gets shared all over the country? I respect Aldon Smith. He out of football for so long had troubles, staying out of trouble. But at this point, like, I'm not sure how much of a future Aldon Smith has. I mean, I'm not saying he'll never play football again, but the Cowboys need to go with players, especially on defense. We need players with futures and that have a prime ahead of them. I'm not. How old is Aldon Smith again, by the way?
Alden Smith is 31 years old. He had 4 sacks in the first 3 games, and then the last 13 games he had 1 sack.
Exactly. Well, that's another reason because look, I'm not going to expect him to get a sack every single game or have an interception or whatever. But the fact is he's 31,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really it's not always wise to have a starter who's 31 years old. Like you want to have a starter that's in their mid 20s, that's in their prime, but with Alden Smith, the fact that he started out making an impact, and then the rest of the season wasn't much of an impact.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they feel like, well, we need, there's a lot of expectation on our defense. So I just don't think that he kind of fits the plans. I mean, he's a good player, but I just think the Cowboys need to go with somebody else.
Yeah. As far as the draft goes, the Cowboys are picking number 10 overall. They have 4 picks in the top 100. They have 2 third-round picks. Is there a direction you want to see them go with this number 10 pick? Trade up, trade down, go secondary, go D-line?
If there's a chance of trading up to draft Penei Sewell out of the University of Oregon, that would be good because Penei Sewell is a hell of an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
This dude can block. I mean, this dude can create running room. If the Cowboys had a chance to get him, I would get him. But unfortunately, it's a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati is obviously. I mean, I'm sure Cincinnati will take him. I mean, they need somebody to protect Joe Burrow.
Of course.
Rashawn Slater's out there.
Exactly, but to fully answer your question, I think Patrick Surtain Jr. out of University of Alabama is the guy. And I explained this on my podcast when I did the latest episode on the progress. I said if Patrick Surtain and Trayvon Diggs these dudes, they were college teammates. Now, they're both playing under a different philosophy. They're not playing professional football, but those two know each other. They're very familiar with each other and their style of play. So if these two dudes are playing with the Cowboys together, there's that harmony and the fact that they're on the same page. Like when it comes to the Cowboys defense, everybody needs to be on the same page. That's the key. And Patrick Surtain, obviously his stats, tell the story and, his athletic ability. But when we draft him, obviously when I talk about that, I'll read his draft profile. I'll make, there'll be pros and cons like every other player, but I think Patrick Surtain is the guy to get. Although right now there's reports that the Florida tight end, I think Kyle Pitts is his name, I believe.
Yeah.
Beast.
If we get him, look, he's a great player, but getting him would not be right. Look, because now as far as the tight end position goes, the health of Blake Jarwin is obviously a cause for concern because he tore his ACL on a non-contact play.
Yep. And
Dalton Schultz he's a good player, but he's not star. He's not like star of the future kind of like thing. Yep. I mean, I'm sure he'll if he. I'm not sure what his contract status is, but the bottom line is, getting a tight end in the first round for the Cowboys, we can't go that direction. Like we need to go with secondary, get Patrick Surtain because if he's there, we need to get him. Okay, but I'm not going to rule out Penei Sewell because last year when we got CeeDee Lamb, I mean, I'm going to ask you guys: were you guys shocked that CeeDee Lamb was still there by the time the Cowboys?
Absolutely, yeah.
I was honestly.
Was
I mean, there was rumors that the 49ers was going to take him. We ended up taking Javon Kinlaw.
Raiders.
And yeah, I honestly thought the Raiders were going to take him, and they ended up going Ruggs. And then, yeah, it was kind of surprising to me. They said that he was the most natural receiver out there. So, yeah, I mean, that definitely was. It was definitely a luxury pick for you. That's why I have a feeling that if Kyle Pitts were there for you guys, that would also be a luxury pick for you guys as well. I mean, giving Dak another weapon, that's just a mismatch. I know that his comparisons to is Darren Waller, and I'm watching him, and I think he's more athletic than Darren Waller is right now. And, he played against the number one DBs. He played against J.C. Horn. So I think that I'm not saying that that's my pick for you guys, but if you guys were to get him, there's nothing to, be pissed off about. But, I definitely –
Jerry.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Based on what I said, Kyle Pitts is. If we do get Kyle Pitts, we're gonna have to do something with Dalton Schultz. Like we're gonna have to trade him because we can't have too many chefs in the kitchen. But the top priority for the Cowboys, it is and has been for so long, is the defense.
Yeah. I'd want to keep
But
as
if
many.
Kyle Pitts is taken, then yeah,
I'd want to keep as many good
like you
tight
said,
ends as
another
we
weapon
can.
for Dak.
Yep. What I like the most is, I mean, it looks like 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks are going in this top 9, possibly, which, and then maybe the Dolphins are going to snag a receiver. So to me, I'm kind of making my short list of the top 4 players that I want, and one of them's guaranteed to be there. So I think that's what I'm most excited about for this number 10 pick. Got that. G, any last comments for you? I got one more, and
I'm just more curious. I know we talked about the draft and free agents and whatnot, and we talked about your guys' injury when it came to linebackers. Speaking of which, Leighton Vander Esch, would you guys see like extending him or picking up his 5th-year option, or just denying it and let him kind of walk? I mean, when healthy, this guy's a beast, but keyword when. I mean, when, because the best ability is availability, and with him always hurt, and it's nothing to play around with that neck injury as well. So I'm curious your opinion on that.
The fact that he had a neck injury is scary enough. Okay, if next season, if he gets hurt again, like week 1 he's hurt and he's not back until week 9. Like, there's no way we're keeping him, and I don't think another team's even gonna want to take a chance. Which makes me feel bad because Leighton Vander Esch is a hell of a player. I mean, he played high school football with the story. He grew up in a small town,
like
middle of nowhere in Idaho.
Football.
7-man football, and was a walk-on at Boise State and earned a full scholarship. I mean, everything in his life and his career goes is the odds were always stacked against him, and he's always overcome those odds. So right now the question is, can he overcome the biggest odd of them all? Can he overcome all the injuries and be effective? I hope so. I'm not going to say, well, sure he can, because you never know. I mean, every body is just so different. I mean, it's sad because, and some people label him as Sean Lee 2.0, which really breaks my heart because I have so much respect for Sean Lee. And it's sad to see, like, in this perspective, the fact that a player gets hurt, he can't do what he loves to do. It's heartbreaking. But at this point, Leighton Vander Esch's future with Dallas is certainly, it's unpredictable. That's the best way I could say, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep. I always say if the 5th-year option is available, you always take it. I mean, unless the guy is an all-pro type of player and you just want to extend him ASAP. If the 5th-year option's there, take it. If not, then just see how it plays out. I mean, like Alex said, I mean, the injury history and stuff, if you can't count on a guy, then it's kind of hard to re-sign him.
If he's brilliant next year, if he's healthy, plays all 16 games, has very respectable numbers, absolutely take that 5th-year option. Of course, but don't pay him just yet. Okay,
I agree.
No. If he's mad about it, well, then you know what? Then you got to move on. Okay,
he won't be that type
it's
of
business.
player.
It's not personal. Like, he won't, and I know he won't because how humble he is, how hardworking he is. He just loves to play football.
Yep.
He's like Jordan Lewis, doesn't give a damn about money. He just wants to play.
Yeah,
wants to make enough to take care of himself and take care of his family, and that's it.
Yeah,
exactly.
My last question is coming down to this Dak contract. He got his 4-year, $160 million, $126 guarantee. No franchise tag. No trade clause in the contract. Were you happy with this contract? Or are you just glad it finally got done?
I'm not happy about the contract, but I am glad that it's done. And I'm going to be very, very honest. I'm not a fan. I'm not a big fan of Dak Prescott. I mean, overall, some people might say I'm not a fan at all. The problem with Dak Prescott is that, what fans are not understanding, these big numbers that he had last year in 2019, they come because the fact that he played against a bad team where they were garbage time stats. I would argue, why would you be okay with paying a player who's not doing good who's only doing good against bad teams, who's struggling against good teams, and he's doing garbage time stats? So for a while, I was a heavy Dak critic, and I said, you know what? If he doesn't want to, just let him go. But at the same time, I came to the realization, look, if the Cowboys go with a rookie quarterback in the draft, it's a worse situation because Prescott has something that's important, and that's experience. So when he was signed, I came to the realization, well, I'm not a fan of Dak Prescott, but you know what? At least we have a quarterback with experience, okay? And at least he's very familiar with some of his players. Like, at least he can like, work with them. But what I pray is Dak Prescott needs to improve his accuracy, and he needs to improve his ability to make deep passes. But at the same time, I just hope that the offensive line can protect him, because if he's left unprotected, he has a habit of throwing himself into the wolves. And then by that is he'll get hit by 3 guys. He'll fumble the ball. Like, he won't make the decision. Just throw the ball away. Like, don't try to like run through these 3 guys. I mean, you'll get hurt again too. So Prescott needs to understand he needs to make better decisions. I mean, at this point, now that he's paid, he's a leader and he's a very valuable asset. Okay. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not going to go around saying, I did go around and say Prescott doesn't deserve this money, but at this point, there's no point of doing that, because what's in the past. Like, I'm not going to complain about that anymore. Like, what's done is done. So all I can say is I hope that Dak Prescott proves me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And if he does, I'll go on my show and say, well, I was wrong. I doubted the man. I criticized him heavily, and I'm sure, at this point it says I unfairly criticized him, but I'm admitting that I'm wrong, because a lot of people won't do that. They'll just, I've had people go like, well, he got lucky. I'm like, no, I'm just going to tell it like it is. I was wrong, and he proved me wrong, and I'm actually happy that he did, because I want him to succeed.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. I've been a fan of him, being that 5th round guy, the odds stacked against him, and coming up, and I'm glad he got paid, but I wish he got paid sooner. I mean, this is me talking as a 49ers fan. If he hit the market, he'd be pouncing all over him.
The fact that he got hurt, if he had been paid before the 2020 season, and he suffers that injury, the situation is 10 times worse, because he's a major liability at this point. And he's still a liability right now, because that ankle is not the same. Like, you suffer an injury like that, I mean, that ankle is fragile. So, I mean, at this point, it's a risk, but we were better off signing Dak Prescott than we were going with a rookie quarterback. Because as many times as I said, Prescott, we should move on from Prescott, I should have thought of well, if he's not the quarterback, then who is? Like, a rookie quarterback really doesn't make things any better. Even if the Cowboys got lucky enough to get Trevor Lawrence, like, what makes me think that Trevor Lawrence is actually going to take us to the freaking playoffs, his first season? I mean, I get it, Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 pick, but going with a rookie quarterback is not always a good thing, because you're just delaying and delaying and delaying. Like, you're back at square one, and you got to build the offense around that guy, and that takes years. So at least Prescott's familiar with the offensive environment. Yep. So I'm glad that I was able to get myself to open my eyes a little bit more. And that's the thing about being a sports writer. Like, you go back and say, well, I should have said that, but at least now I'm actually understanding things a little bit more. It's all a learning process. Everybody goes through it.
Yeah, definitely couldn't agree more with that.
You talked about his, kind of padded stats from the comebacks and being down and things like that. And that goes back to kind of what we talked about before about the conservative offensive play calling. I just really wish they would get into this hurry up offense, kind of the 2-minute offense, like the play from behind attitude, and really put defenses on their heels. I mean, Kansas City plays it best, of course. I mean, they got Patrick Mahomes, but I love the way that they just hurry up to the line, get their plays in, and do things like that. So,
I hope so. I hope they can do that, because Prescott can actually excel at that. As long as if he improves his accuracy. Because, I mean, like, I know it's hard for people to understand. I mean, his accuracy is a cause for concern. He's not always the best thrower. He can be better. But at the same time, he needs to be under a philosophy that's not so conservative. Like, it's got to be a philosophy that kind of fits, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But not every quarterback's perfect. Like, when I was being criticized for being so unfair about Dak, I would tell people, like, we need a quarterback that doesn't do things right all the time. We need somebody that can do things right often. And Prescott at that point it's hard for me to say, because I respect the man, because it makes me sad that he lost his mom at a young age. And, and I have such a great relationship with my mom. If I lost my mom, it would be devastating. But at the same time, like, we got to put the personal things effect. This is about winning. If Prescott's not helping us win, then, that's the problem. It's not personal, it's business. But like I said, I am pretty confident, no matter what I might have said about Dak in the past, I'm pretty confident he can turn things around. And if he does, I'll go on my show and said, I did not believe in this guy. I unfairly criticized him. And now look at him. He's proven me wrong.
Yeah, I think step one is protecting the man, and that's why in my recent mock draft, I mean, after the Niners traded number 3, throwing it out there, is Rashawn Slater, because I had Penei Sewell being picked early, and protecting him I think is key. So he's not running around all the time. I mean, he's got arm talent. He's got the smarts, in my opinion. So yeah, man. I'm a believer of him. I think he can bounce back, and it's really humble of you saying I hope he proves you wrong. And I'm on that boat. I do hope that he succeeds. I'm a big fan of him for sure.
I think most of the criticism came from the fact that I was just an angry Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
It's that personality. I mean, those two personalities in my head, the sports writing perspective and the fan perspectives, they're always fighting in my head.
I bet that's hard. I bet that's hard for sure.
But if Penei Sewell is selected by the Cowboys, I mean, it's going to be one of the best things. I mean, this dude is going to, this dude can protect Dak Prescott. I mean, the dude is tough.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, he's definitely tough. He's definitely stout.
Yeah.
And like Duran was saying, he comes from that Oregon offense, which is always used to playing fast, and so maybe that'll be in the benefit. That's what you guys want. So,
yeah, that's it for me. G, you got any final thoughts?
No, nothing for me. But Alex, go ahead and plug your work and let us know where all the fans can find you, follow you, and whatnot. Go ahead.
Well, folks, like I said, I run Cowboys Talk as well. Sorry about that. My phone just kind of went off.
We get breaking news?
Yeah. No, nothing really. But you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @BearmanofTexas. That's my personal account. There's also the Bear of Texas account as well. Same thing, hashtag not the hashtag, @BearmanofTexas on Twitter. Basically, like, all the links of my shows are there. You can even message me and I'll send them to you. Actually, I have to send it to you guys as well, and I'll do that. I'll do that shortly.
Yeah.
But yeah, shows we're weekly done, and I take my podcasting very seriously. That's the one thing you gotta know about me, folks. I take it very seriously.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it shows, man. We appreciate you coming on our show. You can find us on YouTube @WildWereFans, and also on Twitter @WildWereFansPod. Duran, anything else before we sign off?
Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. Give us a follow. Check out some more of our interviews.
Yeah, for sure. Comment below if you have any suggestions, or if you want to hear from any fans, as far as like, if you're a fan yourself and you want to come on the show, just hit us up, find us on Twitter, send us in the DMs for sure.
You got it. Have a good one.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.